Have you ever woken up and said, I want to be Wario, I want to feel like Wario, I want to look like Wario, I just want to be Wario? Happens to me at least once a week. Unfortunately, the sciences were not quite there yet, but the closest thing to that might be playing Wario World. Out of all the Mario characters who got spin-off series, Wario's is by far the largest. Not counting Japan exclusives, there are 19 Wario games as of WarioWare Get It Together. That's over 10% of all Mario games. It's not just a sub-series, it's a franchise with two of its own sub-series, Wario Land and WarioWare. Wario Land games are platformers that manage to feel completely different from Mario's, and WarioWare games are collections of hundreds of micro-games that last several seconds and are played rapid-fire. However, one Wario game doesn't fit in either of these series. Okay, there's like 5 that don't, but Wario World is the most notable. When I found out this game existed, I reacted as any normal human being would. There's a Wario World? The first time I watched a video of Wario World, I was enthralled. Not because of the gameplay, but because of... I had found the meaning of life. I needed this, and when I walked into my local retro game store and saw Wario World's case gazing at me from behind the glass, I knew it was my destiny to buy it. And it wasn't very cheap, I'll tell you that much. To be fair, $50 is a perfectly reasonable price for this game, at least compared to what it's being sold for online because it fulfills my purpose in life. The copy I got had few visible scratches and included the case, manual, and even this old Nintendo Power advertisement. Ah, the instruction manual. How I miss thee. Do they serve a purpose in this day and age? No, but I still wish new releases included them. They were fun to flip through and were all based on the game they came included with, like this one, for example, includes the anatomy of a Wario. I needed this. Welcome to Wario World! I know where the next place I'm moving to is. Let's start with a story. Long ago, a being known as the Black Jewel was wreaking havoc on the unnamed land. The Spritelings, these things, steal it away with the magical powers they apparently have. Yeah, nothing in Wario World is really explained, and that's kind of odd when Wario is the only thing in this game that existed prior to it and has been seen since. It has been established previously that Wario owns a castle, but this is not just a castle. This is a castle made of gold filled with an insane amount of riches. Wario likes his gold so much he is literally drooling at the sight of it. Unluckily, one of the treasures he picked up happened to be that black jewel I mentioned a minute ago. It awakens and destroys Wario's castle, leaving him with nothing. Each level in the game includes 5 of the Spritelings trapped in cages. Now Wario must free all the Spritelings, seal the black jewel away again, and gain enough treasure to rebuild his castle. Now on to the gameplay. Wario is one of my all-time favorite video game characters, and that's mostly because of how enjoyable his presence is. My sense of humor is not very good, and because of that, Wario makes me laugh harder than nearly anything else on the planet. This here is peak Wario. I assume Charles Martinet had a ton of fun voice acting Wario in this game. I can't imagine him being able to do some of these lines without smiling. But Wario's antics can't carry an entire game. Get out of here! Okay, maybe they can, but this was marketed as a game, so there has to be gameplay too. Now, some people might have been yelling at me for saying this doesn't fit into the Wario Land series. I mean, this is a platformer, right? Well, yes, but it's also a beat-em-up. In fact, I'd argue it's more so a beat-em-up than a platformer. While there is some platforming, it's mostly found inside bonus areas. I've actually never really played a beat-em-up prior to this, so Wario World is kind of my introduction to the genre. The combat is the focal point of the game. You punch an enemy until they fall over and then use one of the 3 moves. Some people might be upset over the lack of move variety, but I personally would rather have it simpler. However, there's really no reason to use one move over the other most of the time. I mostly just use the suplex because it was the funniest. Though the move variety doesn't bother me at all, the enemy variety is a different story. On the surface, it looks like there are a fair amount of enemies in the game. There are 62 of them, but then you realize 31 of them are just model swaps of other enemies, and the ones that don't have model swaps usually appear in 1 or 2 sections in a single level and then never show up again. The combat, while fun at first, gets boring pretty quickly. In the later levels, I just ended up skipping some encounters completely because they weren't fun anymore. And to be completely honest, Wario's antics tend to wear a bit thin after a few hours as well. Great, I just got banned from Wario forums for saying that. Now where am I going to discuss Wario? To be fair, you won't be playing the game for much more than a couple of hours. Wario World is not a long game. Even if you don't know what you're doing, it shouldn't take you much longer than 5 hours to get through it. And the fact that it gets repetitive long before then definitely says something. Wario World also happens to be a very easy game. Most enemies spend more time twiddling their thumbs than attacking you, and even when they do, it's not at all difficult to stun them long before they even think of doing so. Even if you do manage to die, there aren't really any consequences for doing so. All you have to do is pay some money and you're right back where you were. It's convenient, sure, but you just lost. You should have some sort of repercussion. I never even came close to being out of money. If it cost a lot of coins or you respawned a bit back, or if coins were used for anything else, then this system would work. But as it stands, there's nothing stopping you from just brute forcing through all the obstacles in front of you. I did die a lot more as the game went on, but that was because I realized there was nothing stopping me from brute forcing through everything. Brute force. It's a good strategy for when you don't have a strategy. The controls in Wario World remind me of Mario Sunshines. You can turn on a dime, but for some reason you can't just move a little bit. You almost always move a bit further than you want. Now it's not nearly as bad as it is in Sunshine, and at least you don't have to play those stupid garbage block platforming sections. Oh wait, you do. Wario World has tons of collectibles. First, there's these treasures that unlock microgames to play in a demo of the first WarioWare game you can transfer to your Game Boy. Second, there are pieces of Wario statues that increase your max health, because the game wasn't easy enough. Of course, there are the Spritelings, which actually aren't the required collectible. That would be the red diamonds. Just like in Wario Land 4, you have to collect gem pieces to progress the game. I didn't like it there, and I don't like it here, but at least in this game it's clear where they are and you don't have to get all of them. Red diamonds are located down these trapdoors that put you in either an underground puzzle room or sky platforming area. Completing them rewards you with a gem and occasionally a statue piece or a spriteling. I really like this one where you have to grab onto these platforms to weigh them down so you can avoid hitting the spikes. None of the other ones really stick out though. Most of them are just pretty easy and uninteresting, but at least they don't overstay their welcome and let you try as much as you want. I could rant about Sunshine for hours and will at a later date. If you end up not having enough red diamonds to move on, then you have to start the level over. But not completely. All of the time-consuming segments like battle arenas and mini-bosses don't have to be played again, so going back isn't that bad at all. The game has only 8 levels, but they can be pretty lengthy. I'd say each stage lasts an average of 30 minutes. Although, one of the biggest issues I had with the game is the fact that half of the stages just aren't very good. That half being the second half of the game. Alright, the Beanstalk level was pretty solid, and the Ice level was annoying, but it could have been a lot worse. World 4 is where things get bad. Mirror Mansion is chock full of infuriating gimmicks, and Pecan Sands? Ugh. Getting some of the crystals forces you to go out of your way down other paths, sometimes making you lose progress. One time I accidentally backtracked all the way back to the start of the level. That was annoying. And when I finally made it to the end, I had only 2 red crystals out of the required 6. It took an hour to beat this level. Eventually I just gave up searching and looked up a guide. As much as I'd like to say there is nothing redeemable about this mess, the music is really good. Actually, overall the game's soundtrack is great. It's weird, but in a good way. Greenhorn Forest. Have you ever been able to hear obesity? Greenhorn Ruins is the best track in the game, obviously. Also, every boss in the game has its own unique music track as well, which I didn't even notice until I looked up the OST. Your takeaway from this video should be that Wario World's music is way better than it should be. There's a boss at the end of every stage, plus the end of every world. Add the final boss in and you get 13 bosses. Like I said, the music is weird but good. Everything else is weird but weird. You could probably tell from the background footage, but playing Wario World is like a fever dream. Enemy designs are odd, nothing you wouldn't find in a Mega Man game though. Bosses, on the other hand. Oh boy. World 1's boss is a giant lizard in a bikini. There's that thing. If I saw that crawling at me in the dark, I would run for my life. Ironically, as abstract as the boss designs are, they are painfully simple to defeat. None of them are particularly interesting, and they're all just so darn easy. The final boss doesn't even pose a decent threat. The Great Black Jewel has but 3 simple attacks that you can avoid consistently if you have any semblance of skill whatsoever. I thought at some point maybe it would start to change things up a bit. It has more health than all the other bosses after all, but no. Most other bosses got more difficult as the fight progressed, albeit usually nothing but a speed increase or something else basic. The Black Jewel doesn't even get that. You break the 40 Sprite Leaks free, suplex, credits. There is one more thing though. Just like in the first 3 Wario Land games, you'll get a different ending depending on how well you do. It's not based on your money this time though, it's based on how many Spritelings you set free. I saved a number in the 30s, so I got the second best ending, which gives Wario the same castle he had at the start of the game. So, is Wario World any good? The gameplay was absolutely nothing special, it got boring way too quickly and there wasn't enough variety to save it. Nonetheless, the stages were very diverse, each one felt different from the last, and Wario himself raised the score too. As mixed of a bag as Wario World was, I can't deny this is the perfect Wario game. It's gross, crude, full of charm, and much more entertaining than anyone would expect. Wario World was not as fun as I was hoping it would be. Not bad, but not something I'd choose to play on a normal day. It has its moments, though. If you ever wanted a video game drug trip with Wario as the star, then boy do I have a game for you. Wario drug trip. Well, when you put it that way...